Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm Lori Carpenos, and I'm so pleased to have been asked to present a new paradigm in the field of stress. Notice I did not say stress management because that's what we're going to be talking about. That there's a whole new way to view stress that really pretty much eliminates the sort of stress you've been under. And I'm joined by Lynn Capsulors. And Lynn is going to share with you the points that we're going to cover in this short video.
Awesome. Thank you, Lori. It's wonderful to be here talking about stress. So what we're really going to talk about here today are a few key points. And the first one is how society has a common misperception about stress. And it's a big one. And when you really see this, it's going to knock your socks off. But we're going to talk about where does stress really come from. And finally, you're going to love this one. You'll be amazed at the wisdom that you already operate from. We're going to point you more toward that direction because that is going to be key.
Yeah, beautiful. So let's start out with this misperception that has actually caused more stress. And innocently, like every field has an evolution, and we've come to a point in that evolution where we find out that we get more done with less stress, and we certainly maintain our well-being when we have less stress. So let's talk about some of the misconceptions. What do you think, Lynn? What's the first?
Absolutely. Well, I'd say that there are so many misconceptions about stress, but I would say that the number one misunderstanding or misperception of stress is it comes from outside, because it certainly looks that way. Looks like it's coming from the difficult people at work. It looks like it's coming from the traffic. It looks like it's coming from a divorce or a move. They always say that if you go to the doctor's office, they'll have you rate your stress levels based on major life events. And it certainly looks that way, and it's validated, so to speak, in society that stress looks like it's coming outside at you. But as Lori opened with, we're not talking about stress management. We're talking literally about where it comes from. And where stress comes from is from you.
And
yes, it's a game changer.
Yeah. You really see it. It's an absolute game changer. It just flips everything upside down. And like Lynn was saying that, of course it looks like it's coming from out there because you can point to things and say, well, how could I not be stressed? I'm walking in the woods and I see a bear, or how can I not be stressed? At my post at the hospital, and one of the patients is wigging out in front of me. But here, so it looks that way because we see things in front of us, we hear things in front of us. And so, yes, we're going to have a moment of eek. But how many people continue to think about that, talk about that, and go home at night and talk about this awful, stressful thing that happened, hoping that they'll get enough compassion to help themselves, when actually, after that moment of stress happens and the situation is taken care of, that's it. You're on to the next moment in life. See, the misperception that we have to manage and handle and cope with stress has actually kept more stress alive in people than is necessary. I know, Lynn, you have a statistic about from a psychiatrist colleague.
Yeah, I do. And this is a real shocker. So our emergency stress response system is made to be activated up to 30 minutes, up to 30 minutes once every 1 to 3 days. That's it.
And that's maximum.
That's not very much, and that's maximum. And why would we want to manage stress if that's the case?
We're already designed perfectly. We are already
Exactly.
designed perfectly to
Yes.
have stress in our life come and go.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so
Absolutely.
so many stories to share that illustrate this point. But just to go further with how we're designed so perfectly, anybody listening probably has their own story to illustrate this. One that comes to my mind often is something I read a while back, where there was a engineer of a train, and he sees a conductor of this train. He sees something on the track ahead of him, and he slows down because he doesn't know, is it an animal, is it a dog, what is it? So he's pumping the brake or whatever you do on a train, and he gets close enough and he realizes that it's actually a child. Somehow the child is saved without a mark. I know I read this.
Wow.
And somehow he gets his leg out. The train is going slow enough, but he gets his leg out enough to maneuver the child away, far enough away. The child is fine. He has reporters in his face wondering, how did this happen? How did you know to do that? He said, I don't know. It was automatic. It was an automatic response. And we know now what that was.
Yeah.
It's a deeper knowing,
Yes.
which is what Lynn and I have been involved in learning, sharing with others, passing this understanding on to people. So it's such an honor to be asked to present it to a group of a team working at a hospital. Lynn and I have both had experiences in hospitals as patients, as I worked on a psychosomatic unit quite some time ago at Stanford University Children's Hospital, that I have so many stories from that illustrate this very point.
Absolutely. And what we're really saying, to go a little bit deeper here, where stress really comes from is Lori's doing a beautiful job sharing about the illustration, as it looks like it's coming from outside, because we can look and see what's happening. But here's the deal behind that. It's coming from the way that you're thinking about that difficult person. Even if everybody in the room feels this person is difficult, oftentimes, oh yeah, I'm validated, I'm not crazy. But really, what really happens is it's their thinking. If everybody in the room is feeling this person's difficult, it's the way that person is those people are thinking about that person. So we create our stressful feelings based on how we're thinking about a person, a place, a thing. It comes through us via this gift of thought that we're able to think and be a thinker. We have the power to think. But boy, it's like mind-blowing because it doesn't look that way. But that's really good news, I feel, for sure, that it's not coming from outside, because if it really was, then we're more of a victim of circumstance. We have to try to change our outside environment. We force people to change or think, they've got to change in order for me to feel better. Here, we have freedom and free will to think about anything any way we want. And then everything and anything for life, in life, I should say, is really up for grabs. That it becomes a choice on which route you choose to go. That's the beauty of it. But here's the thing, we're not teaching anybody how to fix stress. We're not teaching anybody how to cope or manage stress. We're giving you the understanding of where it comes from. And it's from that understanding, your misperception is cleared. Clarity happens.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Lynn. What
Yeah.
Lynn said about we have the power to think. That is so huge that when I just started to see this, I had a sense that it was really huge, that seeing this was going to change my life somehow. And that's exactly what happened. That I had a mental health diagnosis of long-term depression when I was in my 20s. And I started to learn about this just at the very beginning. I had some major insights into how I was using my power of thought against myself and against other people, for that matter, innocently. Absolutely innocently. And I can guarantee you that anybody listening to this right now is under this same misperception, because it looks like we go through life as though we're recording what's in front of us. It does not look like we're going through life as though we're an artist with a paintbrush, that our thinking is the paintbrush creating the experience of what's happening. We're not saying that you're going to change the experience or you're going to positive think. This has nothing to do with positive thinking or changing how you think about the things. This has to do with understanding how the power of thought works to give us an experience of life 24/7, every second, from birth to death.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Lori, we forget, I always say this, but we forget we live in a world of thought, that we live in a thought created reality. Whatever we're thinking, we feel it, we're experiencing it, is what you're saying. A fish, right? A fish swims, breathes in water. They don't remember. They don't, they just do it. Same with us. I have a 87-year-old mother and father. God bless them. But my father, he's difficult. For real. But I know it's my thinking about him, right? So with this understanding, just to give people a perspective out there, if I didn't have this, and years ago I didn't, I would go head on with my father and argue with him and yell and scream. And once I got this understanding, boy, it certainly still some days looks like it's coming from him, but I know it's the way I'm thinking about him that's creating my stress and my anxiety about him. So what happens is I don't have to remember that now, because it's normal for me. I just see him with more love and compassion, that he's doing the best he can based on the thinking he's in. So that's the beauty of it. It's, you see people that we're all the same. When we see people beyond their thinking that they're in, we're all the same. We're all made of love and understanding. So it's a game changer. It's a game changer. You don't have to worry about triggers, because trigger is thought. I just, once you're awake and aware to this, you begin to see it more and more and more. And you see people they're just innocently lost in a thought storm. Yeah.
So is there any last thing we want to say? Because we will offer a bigger training for you, but we just
Yes.
want this to be an introduction so that you can decide if a training is something you'd like to be involved in. So is there any last thing we want to share before we?
I would just say that we said a lot here, and just to tell people not to think about it, allow just to kind of percolate, and you may get some insights here and there when they pop up, because this is definitely a different understanding. And it's pretty shocking when you learn that stress isn't really coming from outside of you, that it's coming from you on how you're thinking about something. But boy, it's a game changer when you begin to see it at a deeper level. And that's what Lori's talking about for the training.
You know, I'll just say one more thing too, Lynn, that when we were trained in this understanding, we had to take flights, we had to get hotel rooms, we had to, I mean, we traveled far and wide. I traveled from the East Coast to the West Coast 4 times in 1 year. And now you can have the same training we had all online in the comfort of your own living room, thanks to, I guess, really what happened with the pandemic. And, there's just one other thing when we get on a roll, right? It's hard to,
right.
There's just one of the things, since I mentioned the pandemic, because when Lynn and I were talking about what we wanted to share with you for just a short introduction, when you think about, like, I work with some nurses in my private practice and doctors as well, and even an engineer who works in an ER, and the stories that they have about how everyone adjusted to a pandemic that nobody was prepared for to the degree that was necessary, but somehow they worked around it, they worked together. That's the wisdom. And we call it innate health that every person has. It only gets covered up with stressful, insecure thinking, which is really the misuse of the ability to think. And you can see that it takes having some exposure in these sorts of online videos. We have other resources we can share with you that you can delve into whenever and wherever you want. So it's like a miracle and a wonderful thing to be presenting this to the hospital system, especially now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We totally appreciate it, and hope you enjoyed it. Thanks, Lori.
Hope to see you on one of our trainings. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.